Hello, welcome to Lifessa Lounge episode 7. I'm probably pumped up today, podcast time. Let's do this, let's get straight into it. So we've spoken about dreaming big before.
Yeah.
What I wanted to talk about today was, once we've had that goal, we've dreamed big, we've got that goal, we've got that vision, how do we keep our team aligned with our vision long term? How do we keep our team aligned with our
So I think it starts before that, right? It starts with first. So if you've got a dream in your mind, first of all, it starts with actually getting everybody aligned with that vision in the first place.
Okay.
Forget about keeping them motivated.
Yeah.
You need to get them on board in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So you're sitting at home, your big dream in your mind, you put it out. And I want to use a different word. When we say vision, I just want to be clear on something. If it's be specific, your strategy. Okay? Because your business, you've got your dream, you break that down, that's your vision. I think it's more about how do you get people on board with that vision and the strategy itself on how you're going to meet your business goal, right? So I think that's more of the next step once you've got that dream. And it's an interesting point. I mean, we probably talk for longer than this, so let's keep to the key snappy points for the podcast. But I think you need to, when you're building your team, first off, right, you need to make sure you build it with the right people who are going to be able to buy into that vision and strategy.
Okay.
So you can go and get skill sets exist all the world round, right? But it's no good having somebody who's highly competent in a skilled area, but isn't aligned with your way of thinking, because it's not going to work in the long run. So it's kind of about, you have to work on getting those right people in the first place, and then you need to start thinking about how you're going to build a culture for your actual business, right? Because that's going to be the first point. I don't think you can align with people unless you've got like a shared mindset with them. So I think that's a first key point.
But with the culture would get developed once you've already, you've got the team and what you want to do, that culture would build itself, wouldn't it?
Doesn't really build itself. Again, you need to make sure you've got the right people who are going to be able to cultivate that culture itself. So once you've started with the right people around you, that's when you can start the conversation of, right, this is the dream, this is the vision, and this is when you now break it down. And you need to be able to accurately articulate to them what your vision is and how you're going to deliver that strategy. Yeah. The reason being is, and this is why then you build and cultivate the culture, is because as part of the team, they need to understand why what they're doing every single day builds into what you're trying to deliver in the long run. Right? Because otherwise people just turn up, and they can turn up and they can work 9 till 5 and they can go home, but you find they're not going to be motivated and driven to do it unless they understand how that actually builds into the long goal.
But so also, I'll say that you'd have to also work on the person's self-interest. So when you try and get someone on board, you have to, people also work, what's in it for me? So when you're looking at your team and looking for competencies, you actually have to also say, also articulate to the person what's in it for them, so they actually stay on board. So
what they get out of it.
So they work longer than 9 to 5. Because most times the reason why people struggle in 9 to 5 jobs, it's because they don't feel there's nothing in it for them. What's in it it's mostly in it for the managers, or in it for the directors or the owners of the business. But when you're trying to build something into your own vision, you have to also tell them what's in it for them. And that's not only, it might not be financial, it's also be the things like Maslow's hierarchy, the things that motivate them, things that they find important to themselves. So take for example with Lifessa, one of the reasons why we both joined Ben is because we like the idea of helping people. So this helps us when Ben says, okay, I've got this vision, I want us to do this. But then we also think, okay, this is his vision, but what's in it for us? And then by doing that, then we can say, okay, the goal aligns with what
we want to do, our own
interests, and that helps you motivate the people on your team.
So that's where, again, when it comes back to building the right team, you touched on it perfectly there, right? Because you can go out and get the skill sets, and I can go and get somebody who's just only driven by how much you're going to pay them, right? And that's the difference. When you go out and you find somebody and you can connect with them and give them an intrinsic motivator, that's when they really start to buy in and work those longer hours and put in the time. And that's not saying you're going to force people to work the longer hours, but they understand what they're delivering, and what's in it for them is you're connecting with something that actually motivates them. So that's why I say when you're going out to pick up your team, you know there's someone who will be able to buy into your same line of thinking. So in this instance where you're looking to help others, right, it would have been useless to me if I'd gone out there and said, right, I know people who can have the skill set to do it, but they're completely selfish and they have no interest in being selfless and helping others.
Yeah,
it's not going to work in the long run, right?
Well, because that's what I was going to say. I think the industry that you're in, that will determine the type of people that you want to attract into your company and
But yeah, but you see in the day-to-day business, when you see people that work in retail, most people that work in retail are young students or people that just want to come in and do 9 to 5, because the whole point of it is it's a low-skilled job.
Yeah.
You go in and you work your 9 to 5 and you leave. But then if you want someone to go work on a project, you want people that are dedicated and motivated and that are focused on the project and want to go beyond the normal 9 to 5.
Because you've got some people out there that really are just motivated by money.
Yeah.
And
those people are salespeople. So if you most people that are driven money work in sales, because if they go out there.
So that's that industry is what I'm saying. Yeah. The industry that you're looking at, the salespeople will be perfect if you're. Yeah. I mean, people that are motivated by money will be perfect for a sales role.
You wouldn't go and get an accountant to work in a sales role, because most accountants aren't motivated by money. They are, but they're not motivated by sales. They don't go out and say, "I'm going to go and do a sale." Most of the time, they're mostly motivated by getting the job done, making sure that it's correct. And they're focused on the minute details. Like someone in sales might be saying, all I want to do is sell 1,000 numbers of items a day.
Do you know what though? I think that's a bit harsh on people in sales, right? Because I would argue that actually, when you drill down to it, the best salespeople have an underlying motivator which is not about the money. Yes, their job is to get sales, therefore their job is naturally focused around cash flow in and out, right, and how many sales they can make. But you find the best salespeople tend to actually be the best people at communication and engagement and deal making, and they get a pump out of that. They get a pump out of the deal making and the deal breaking kind of thing, right? So that helps them to make the money. Somebody, if they're only literally focused on how much, when we say focus on being money, it's how much you're going to get paid, not how much. Sales is cash coming in. Yeah. When you're talking about somebody who's only motivated by money, they're only motivated by how much you're going to pay them on their daily rate, for example, and therefore they're never going to really give you all of themselves, because all they're doing is what they're paid to do to get.
I don't know. I think that's just the difference between a good salesman and maybe a bad or a poorer salesman.
It's still motivated by the commission.
Yeah, a salesman is motivated by making money.
It's commission.
And a good salesman will sort of buy into or relate to that person that they're selling to, their interests more than a poorer salesman.
Also, like going back to what we said last week, a good salesperson wants sustainable business, so that's why they'll try and add value when they're trying to make the sales. But at the end of the day, the basic thing they want to do is make sales. So, and if they add value to the sale, the customer will come back, so they make more sales. That makes more sense.
And I fully get that. But what I'm saying is they don't come to work just to be. When I'm saying they're motivated by money, they're only motivated by their paycheck. What you're saying is a salesperson is motivated by the sales they're bringing. Yes, they are, because that's their job, right? But there's a difference between that. Somebody who does it because they enjoy doing that is going to give you more than somebody who just turns up and says, "I'm only here for my paycheck." That's why I'm saying it's a bit harsh on sales.
Some salespeople, obviously, not some, a lot of people still enjoy the job that they do.
And that's what I mean by part of building the right team and cultivating the right culture, right? You have to get people in who you know wants to do it for more than just what they're getting paid, right?
Yeah.
Because then it makes it easier to, when you're actually articulating your strategy and your vision to them, they will start to buy into it, and then they'll start to think outside of the box, not what am I just getting paid to do? Yeah. How can I go over and beyond on top of that? Because now I understand what the vision is, right? Because I might have the vision, but then I lay out my strategy, and then people buy into it, and then they say, "Oh, do you know what, Ben? I was thinking, why don't we try this, this, and this?" Because it's a different.
How important is it long term when you're getting your team aligned with your strategy that you make it aware from them in the beginning how you work and set those sort of key.
I think again that builds into how you build your culture. Right? I was watching an interesting TED video yesterday. It's about a guy who he'd actually gone blind and is a CEO of his own company. And they said that one of the questions he got asked after the talk was, how challenging is it to be a CEO of a company when you're blind? And he was like, well, actually, it's been a blessing to me. He goes, because I obviously don't get visual feedback. The audience laughed at the time, right? But he was like, because he doesn't get visual feedback, when he's in a meeting, he can't see people's expressions when he makes an idea. So his way of working is, he asks for active vocal feedback because that's the only way he can get it right. So he's created that as a way of working. He knows all of his team, and his team know with him they need to be very verbal and clear on. He asks questions and expects the answers back, right? So it's all part of building, again, the way that the culture of how your business and your team run. So for me, for instance, a key thing for me is I don't like the amount of time in a working environment that is wasted on meetings. I can't stand it. I find it to be toxic and insidious, right? People have got this whole idea a meeting should be an hour. Do you know what happens when you set a meeting for an hour? The meeting goes for an hour. Do you know what happens when you set a meeting for half an hour? You find you fit that in because you've set that down right. I hate the idea of long meetings. I think your meetings should need to be as long as it takes to discuss that topic. So if I can do it in 15 minutes, do it in 15 minutes.
So that depends on the person that you have in the meeting with, because some people like to have that. They like to build that rapport with the people that they're working with. So although that meeting is there for an hour, you might have to spend 45 minutes talking about the meeting and then 15 minutes just interacting.
Down.
So that it depends on the people you're around.
But this is what I'm talking about, me specifically. So in my instance, I would build a culture where we say, right guys, when we're having meetings, we expect to have meetings only for as long as they need to, so we're not losing productivity outside of that, right? You'll still build rapport because we'll have a close working team relationship, because again, that will be part of the culture. You encourage close engagement with your team, so your team become more than just people who work alongside each other. They become a team in a real sense, right?
Yeah.
So, but then a next company might be completely different. A next person who works is completely different. It's key that you set that out at the start, because again, that's part of finding the right people. If I say to somebody, right, I only want to have, let's say I'll go on the flip side. I want to have meetings. All my meetings are an hour. I expect to be having 5 meetings a day. I'm not going to speak to you outside of the meetings. I want you to do exactly what I tell you to do. I'm not expecting us to be personal friends. You're just here to work, right? That's the other end of the spectrum, right?
But that could happen. That could be a culture within that.
And exactly. But then that's a big difference between whether you, as a person who's joining the team, decide that you want to join. If somebody said that to me, you're basically just a number. I'm not interested in working for your team, right? So again, it's understanding that culture from the beginning.
That's also important in building ownership. So people feel that they own part of the vision. So it goes in hand with empowering your team. And when you get your team together, you give them ownership, so they don't feel that they feel that they have that they matter and what they do in the business matters. So when they take ownership from the person at the very bottom, that administration person, the director, CEO at the top, every person in the business feel that what they add value to the company. The worst thing you could have is have a team and then someone's always waiting for the manager to say, okay, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? Some businesses it has to be done when it's like low skill. But when you're building up projects, you want your team to feel empowered to go out and do things on the fly. Go back and check with the person at the top. But just having impact and ability.
Would the manager then or the CEO have to build a culture where there's trust then? And there would have to be trust within that culture.
But you'd hire the people you hire, you'd have to be, you would want to trust them. You wouldn't want to hire someone and you think, I'm not too sure if you can do this. You'd want someone to go out and say, look, I'm going to do this. Are you okay with this? And go, yes, I know I can do it.
So I think one of the important things then is when you're sort of talking about getting a team aligned with your strategy long term, is you have to get that recruitment process right in the beginning. That's really important, isn't it? There's two sides to this, right? When you go from like new startup, completely yes, you need to build that right team from the start. But then you've got the flip side of when your business gets bigger. And so once your business is bigger, and say you've got a pillar, and somebody just decides to leave, they want to start a new opportunity, or for some reason it doesn't work out, and they leave. Then you need to bring somebody else in. But you've already got a team in there. So again, bringing your it's difficult when you bring in somebody at a senior management level, right? Well, they have to understand the culture, don't they?
Well, you want them to understand the culture, but sometimes you like something about their culture, so you want to bring that in. But then are your team going to be receptive to that? Is another challenge in that recruitment process, another consideration.
And then the counter argument to that is sometimes you need to change the culture. Like the business is not doing very well. And then someone that was a manager and he's gone out to new opportunities and it's time to bring someone else in. You might want that person to change the culture, and then weed out the people that are in your business that aren't adding value to your company. It happens in all businesses. Like you have so in banking, you have like a culture that's very important. You have the American culture, which means they work 9 till like 11. They put in all the hours because that's what they do. And where the European culture is works more balanced and. But if you want to improve at some point you want to improve your productivity, so you get an American manager in. He'll push his team through. He might not be as personable as a European manager, and then once he's got to the company where it needs to go, then he steps aside, goes somewhere else, and he brings someone else in that will then steady the ship.
Yeah.
We don't want to happen is someone's a leader that goes in and says, yeah, I'm moving this person, moving that person, moving that person out. But then and then people working for him eventually think, I don't work for this guy anymore and leave. So it's about finding that balance of culture in a business.
Yeah, and that's why I use that. So when that's more in a business capacity. I think when you're starting out on your own, make those right decisions at the start, and it becomes infinitely easier when you're going through the short term to the mid term to the long term. Because, and again, if you can do it from the start, then your team they feel more part of the business success because they're there from the beginning. They see it building up, and as I said, and it all actually becomes easier for them to see what they're doing on a daily basis and the tangible results they see from the outside of it. It's easier when you're doing that in a startup sense. But I think that regardless of how big you build, it's always key to maintain that close team relationship and that open relationship.
How easy will that be though when a business gets bigger and the employees number starts increasing and increasing and increasing? That will be quite difficult to keep that personable.
You have to make the effort to do that. My boss, he knows my name, and it's like it's really.
But how many of you in?
But he's got like in the staff of he runs IT, finance, and operations.
Okay.
And he's got like more than 200 staff under him, and he knows everyone's individual name. He literally makes a point of asking you how on holiday. If he hasn't seen you for a while, he goes, "Where you been?" And he makes a point of actually like knowing, and that to me that adds value because you want to work for someone like that, and someone doesn't actually know who you are.
You don't just want to be just another number, isn't it?
And I don't think it is that hard as long as you always pay attention to it. I don't think it makes any difference whether you're in a startup of 10 people or you grow to 600 people, right? What you find is the best CEOs and the best management actually don't differentiate themselves from the person at the bottom. Yeah. They still, I think was it Bill Clinton who used to be the one who they rated the most, who literally spoke to everybody in his team, like, and this is the president, he's the most powerful man in the world, right? But it's one of those things. They make it, and you get loads of CEOs, right? They always pay attention to somebody's name when they first meet them, so they can always. They're not just a number. They'll see them in the corridor. They're able to speak to them because that is the difference between I'm just not a number. I'm actually part of this business. I'm actually part of this team. They might go to somebody who's done something, who's lower level down. They've done something. It gets up to the top. This person contributed to that, and they just send something like a brief thank you. Like these little things.
So it's the little thing. Yeah. No,
but it's the little things done consistently. So it's not. To me, it's not. It's not that it becomes difficult. Again, it's that cultural thing, right? And some people actually they want to go and work in a cutthroat culture, and that's fine. You build your team out of those people. Yeah. But again, you need to be from the very beginning. You need to make sure you build out the right team of the right people whose mind is in the right place that you know actually can align with.
Similar to what you want to do going forward long term.
And that's because that becomes important as you do the startup, and two, as you're going along the way, because when it becomes about the long term, you need to be able to keep people constantly motivated. So not just keep them pumped up in the first 6 months where you say, this is the vision, and they're like, wow, I really love that. It's when it gets 12 months down the line and some people might turn around and say, well, hold on, we're not where we needed to be. And we've talked before about building for the long term and staying patient and building actual sustainable business, and there were no overnight successes, right? 10 years of hard work, when you blow up, everybody thinks on 10 years and one day, everybody thinks you only started the company last month, right? Yeah. But you need to be able to keep people motivated along the way, and that's again, it's all
that's
of that
cultural
thing. How do you?
Isn't it?
And I think as long as you build a culture where everybody feels part of the team and actually recognised as a person, as opposed to just a number, then you can always maintain that. You get that kind of thing where even if they have got concerns, I know that they refer to it like an open door policy. To be honest, that's becoming less and less applicable because people work in so many different ways, like offline, online nowadays, that it becomes less that someone's locked behind a door. But it needs to be that an employee at any level feels that they can speak to management at every level. That is a lot easier to do in a startup instance. If you go into a corporate environment, that's very different. It's always going to be very difficult to get around that. And a banking one is a perfect example, right? You're not going to get somebody who works in a low-level finance team go and speak to a CEO. Just doesn't work like that. There are unwritten rules, but you don't have that that constraint if you're doing a startup of yourself or if you've got a new business. So whilst you've got the opportunity and it's more within your control, then definitely just work on building on those little things and instill that throughout your team, right? Yeah. So everybody who goes down has a lower level management level. All of the managers, it cascades. It's the same. The culture is not just between top level management and then you get lower level management who have a different culture, because then all you have is you create that division, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, because top level management, obviously, and I'm talking about when a business is huge now, there's so much, they're not going to be able to manage. Yeah, they can do the consistent things every now and again, or not every now and again, but they can do these little things to make someone feel valued, but they're not going to be able to manage lower levels, so they're going to need, obviously, the culture to filter through.
Well, it's not the management, it's the engagement.
But I'd say also the counter is that, with startups, a lot of times you're outsourcing and you're delegating. So you have to be able to get the person that you're outsourcing to be able to work in line with the culture that you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So much as it's very unlikely that with startups that you hire people straight away, because there's from an accounting background, labour and wage salary is the highest expense from you. So usually you'll be outsourcing to get they're cheaper, they usually work faster. So you have to when you outsource, you have to make sure that they work in line with the same culture that you have in your startup.
Is that like hitting deadlines?
Hitting deadlines, make sure the person is constantly communicating. Make sure that they understand what your big picture is, so that when they're delivering the work, they understand what you want. What you want from them, and then when they deliver the results, it's easier and it's faster. So then it helps you with your startup, because it's very unlikely that you'd be hiring loads of staff members. You're more likely to be delegating between your team and delegating to outsourcing and bring them in. So they might be working with consultants to work on with your startup, so that they will be helping you and they'll understand they'll understand the vision that you want to work with, and that will help you achieve the goals.
Do you know what I find is a key indicator of whether the person wants to be part of your team and build into it? Is not what you say to them, it's the questions they ask back. So, for instance, when you're dealing with the outsourcing there, you'll find actually the best people, the people who deliver the most, they don't wait for you to say, right, this is what I need from you. They ask a lot of questions so they can understand how your business culture works in the background. Yeah. One, they can determine, yes, if this is for them, but then they know that that's how they deliver the maximum value out of whatever the individual piece of work is. And again, they understand the long term, right? It doesn't make a difference whether you're outsourcing or not. If I'm a contractor and you come to me to deliver a piece of work, I'm going to ask as many questions to make sure that what I deliver is in line with the way that you work. Yeah. Not just the outcome that you want, but I work in the manner that you want to work.
You want more work.
Because you keep coming back, right? So I think it's about them asking again, a key indicator is they ask the right questions along the way. And I expect that when you share a vision, right, ask question. Yes, you can build out the strategy as much as you like, but again, the more people ask questions, that shows that they're actively engaged. They're already starting to get almost excited by the idea. If they just sit there and they just listen to your pitch and they're like, I listened. Any questions? Wasn't really excited. You don't see something light up in their eyes. There's no right. Well, how are we going to do this, or when do you think that will come back, or you can see their mind working and spinning about how they're going to contribute to it. Like I think if you don't see that, again, you've not got the right team. So I think it's so. That's why it's just so core to have that right team in the first place before you even set out on anything. I think once you've got that, then as long as you're able to accurately articulate what that goal is and break it down, so share the big dream, but then break down into the smaller pieces. Yeah. And again, the team need to be able to walk away knowing, I know how I'm going to contribute to that. They need to come in every day knowing what I just did. For that 10 hours of my day, I worked extra hours. I had to put in 10 hours a day, but I know that's going to deliver direct value back. Because if they don't know that, then if you're paying them for 7.5 hours, they'll work 7.5 hours and they'll go home, right? It's a big difference. And I think the ability to share that vision and that strategy and get your team aligned with it is essential to getting a motivated and inspired team that will help you achieve your goals. That's why I think it's so essential.
That's why you have to have constant reminders of what you're doing. So you have to that's why they have constant team meetings of saying, okay, we've done this is our next step. So everyone knows. People forget, like, okay, so how are we going to get there? If you have constant meetings, but constant reminder team meetings of this like 30-minute show team meeting saying, well, we're here now. I mean,
not our meetings.
You know, we're here now, and it's the next step. So everyone constantly is reminded that okay, this is the vision, this is where we're going. So we're still on this path. People don't feel confused. Like, okay, I've been doing this for like 4 weeks now. We still haven't moved on. I don't know where we are. You have to keep the team. You have to keep the team motivated, and they must know exactly where they are at a certain point.
I think that's important as well with career progression.
Yeah.
With a lot of people, that they're wondering, you know what, I've been doing this. He promised me this, and that's also doing what you say what you're going to do as well.
That goes back to self-interest. So as much as when I work for anyone I work for, I always ask, what can I get out of them as much as they can get from me. So they can get out from me a hard worker and someone who's dedicated. But also, what do I want from them? I want career progression. I want to increase my skills. I want to feel more confident in what I'm doing. So when I leave, or like if something happens to me and I have to leave, I know that I'm better off after I've left. And it's also.
It's a two-way thing.
It's a two-way thing. So what they can give to you and what you can give to them.
I think it's quite essential to have those reviews on I think quarterly basis is kind of a good point in time. When I say that every meeting doesn't have to be short, the meeting should be as long as you need it.
As long as you need it
to be.
Your
quarterly one, I would expect that to be. We might say, right, every quarter we're going to spend an hour and a half or 3 hours, and every division is going to say what they've done, and it's actually going to articulate back, right, this is what we set out to do, this is what we delivered, and then everyone sits there and they go, wow, do you know what? Actually, I didn't realise how far we've come. And you get those when you sit down and business come back and they tell you the results. All of a sudden, you start to see numbers and tangibles put to the work that you're doing. And so I think on a quarterly basis, that's good. And that's those ones where you might say, right, we're going to have 2-day off-site workshop. Because again, builds in a bit of that. Do you know what we're going to do? We're going to spend the morning going through the results. We're going to spend the afternoon going through planning for going forwards. We're going to spend the next day doing team building events, right? And again, that it mixes it up, but it keeps everybody one in line with what you're trying to deliver. Two, it gives them a reminder of what they're doing, how it contributes back, and everybody likes to see successes, right? So they like to see, oh yes, finally I can see the results of the work that I'm putting in. I think that's essential for them to be able to give those reminders. And then you build, again, that engagement, the team building events.
I was going to, the team building, I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but I don't think a lot of companies do team building as much as they used to before. I've been around a few companies, and team building doesn't seem to be a focal thing anymore.
It depends on the business you're working for. Because if you're working for a smaller company, they might have to do team building because it's easy to get people together in a smaller team.
But even a big company, you've still got smaller divisions.
But they have so where I work, they have staff nights where they have people coming in from the outside giving shows, not shows, what courses. They also have staff nights where you can interact with management. They have
is that fun?
Yeah, but these things are all for networking and building and understand who. So sometimes you can work in silos. Like finance doesn't work with IT every day, but then when you have those team nights or the company nights, then you can meet people from IT and then talk to them and get some people around the business that you wouldn't speak to every day. So also, and that always help build a team culture. It's also sometimes usually when you have team nights, it's mostly departmental. So you have a finance team night, or you have a IT or risk team night. So it's harder to get like big companies.
I think team building is very important to keeping people alive with your strategy.
Well,
that's why I brought it up.
I think that probably there are companies that don't do it as well as others, but the point is that some of the great companies, they really know how to make their teams feel valued. So I've worked in places before where they've got like a sports and social setup, right? And then I worked in a team before. I think it comes down to the individual manager as well. You've got. I had a team before where basically we set up, and this was just within the team. So we set up a coffee morning. You set up team lunches that we go on. And these occur all the time, right? And it was just building that up. Like you're coming up to Christmas, you've got people who will do their Christmas dinner days. Like you have like the staff party, but then you've got people who will do the individual like Christmas dinner day. So it comes down to the individual managers, and some people focus on it more than others. But I think the people who focus on it more than others understand the true value that it gives back, and how important it is to keep those employees motivated. I guarantee if you go and look at the businesses who don't put any effort into building up that engagement and bonding within their teams and within the management layers, I bet their results,
Their results aren't as good, yeah.
They may their results on figures maybe like can max up because they chuck more money at it and more hours. I think if you've done like a work efficiency kind of analysis of them, you can guarantee that the people who make their employees feel valued are getting more out of their employees on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, I think that is how you keep your team aligned with your strategy.
And I think we can, and I think there's one of those you could talk for ages on that, and I guarantee we'll loop back round to it at various points in time. And you see when we have examples of when we're doing that as us go out forwards. But again, for me, it's essential if you want to make a success in the long term in the most efficient and effective manner. That again, you build those right people, you cultivate that right culture, and then you just make sure that you can sell that, because then once you sell that vision to them, not sell it to them once and buy into that vision, then that is the difference between just a mediocre and a big success, right?
100%. Alright.
Yeah.
Anything more you want to add, my man?
I think people, when people buy in, they should also, when we sell the dreams, we should also work for their self-interest. That's also an important part, because I think people forget what they can offer us, but what we can offer them.
I think that's important.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, nice one. Lifessa Lounge episode 7. That was good. Ben,
remember,
life's
only as good as your mindset, right?
That's it.
We'll catch you next week.
Nice one. Peace.